It all began on a Sunday morning like any other, with the sun slipping through the curtains of our suburban home and the smell of fresh coffee filling the kitchen where Claire, my wife of 6 years, stood humming a tune I didn't recognize, wearing my old college hoodie, her hair tied up in a bun the way I always loved. It was the kind of morning that made me believe we were still happy, still strong, even if deep down I had started to feel the cracks forming beneath the surface, the kind of silent hairline fractures that creep in when routine replaces passion and love begins to feel more like duty than desire. Claire and I had been together for nearly 8 years, met during our final year of university through Daniel, my best friend since high school, the guy who pulled me out of my worst moments and stood by me through breakups, job losses, and family chaos, the guy who always said he'd die before hurting me, the guy who introduced me to Claire at a bar one winter night when she was drunk on whiskey and laughter and I was too broken from a recent heartbreak to see that she was trouble wrapped in charm. Still, I fell for her hard, the way reckless men do when they mistake danger for excitement, and she fell for me, or pretended to, with just enough warmth to convince me she was the one, and Daniel was there for all of it, from the proposal I planned for weeks to the wedding where he stood beside me grinning like he was proud, maybe even more than me, giving a toast that made half the room cry and Claire blush the same way she did when I first told her I loved her. We bought a modest house, settled into a stable life. Claire worked in marketing, I was a freelance developer with steady clients, and Daniel, who never quite grew out of his wild years, bounced from project to project, always crashing on our couch between jobs or joining us for dinner when he needed a home-cooked meal. He was part of our rhythm, like an adopted brother, a permanent fixture in our marriage, and I never questioned it, never doubted either of them, because if there was one thing I believed in, it was loyalty, and Daniel had proven his countless times, or so I thought. Things began to change subtly. Claire started dressing up more often for work. Daniel became distant and vague, rarely showing up anymore, claiming he was trying to get his life in order. But I noticed the late-night texts Claire would receive, the way she'd suddenly smile and excuse herself to the bathroom, or the sudden drop in her interest in intimacy with me. Once a week became once a month, and then not at all, her touch replaced by excuses, her warmth by polite detachment. I didn't want to believe anything was wrong, so I gaslit myself into thinking I was imagining it, that maybe I was just being insecure or paranoid because Claire wouldn't cheat, especially not with Daniel, the guy who once threatened to beat up my ex when she lied to me, the guy who helped me buy her engagement ring. But doubt is a parasite. It grows slowly, feeds on silence, and before long, I found myself checking her phone when she showered, looking through her browser history, even installing a keystroke tracker on our shared laptop, which yielded nothing conclusive, just vague messages and a string of emails to someone called JM, that she quickly deleted before I could read more. I told myself I needed evidence, not feelings, so I turned to the home security system we'd installed 2 years ago. After a break-in scare, 8 cameras positioned around the house, including one in the living room that pointed at the couch, mostly just for peace of mind. I had never checked the footage before, not once, but one night after Claire told me she'd be working late and Daniel called to say he was in another city for a freelance gig, I felt this gnawing instinct to check the recordings, and what I found shattered every ounce of trust one had left. At 10:43 p.m., Daniel entered through the back door. With a spare key I didn't even know he had, Claire greeted him in silk nightwear I'd never seen, and within minutes they were on the couch, kissing, laughing, undressing. Right there in our home, in the same space where we watched movies, celebrated birthdays, argued and made up, where our wedding photos still hung on the wall like a cruel joke. I watched in horror as the footage revealed a truth more brutal than I could have imagined. It wasn't a one-time slip, it was a ritual, a routine. Daniel came over nearly every Friday night, often staying until 2 or 3 a.m., leaving just before I returned from work trips or late-night gigs, and Claire orchestrated it all with terrifying ease, changing the bedsheets, hiding the wine bottles, deleting call logs, and always kissing me the next morning like nothing had happened. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't even cry. Just stared at the screen, replaying clip after clip, months of betrayal compressed into digital evidence I couldn't unsee. I saved every file onto a USB, locked it in my desk, and for the next few days, I went through the motions of life like a ghost, ate breakfast with Claire, replied to Daniel's casual texts, and planned my revenge like a man possessed. Because confronting them in private wasn't enough. I needed them to feel what I felt, to watch their lies collapse in front of everyone they had fooled. So I waited for our 6th wedding anniversary, a milestone Claire insisted on celebrating with a backyard party, claiming she wanted something intimate and meaningful. She invited close friends, neighbors, Even Daniel, who RSVP'd with a stupid smiley face and a wouldn't miss it for the world. The irony nearly made me laugh. I rented a projector, told Claire I had a special surprise. And as the party hit its peak with laughter, drinks, and cake, I gathered everyone in the backyard, dimmed the lights, and played what I claimed was a slideshow of memories. But what followed was raw, unedited footage of Daniel and Claire's secret affair, time-stamped, undeniable, playing on a loop for every person in our lives to see. Gasps, screams, chaos. Claire dropped her wine glass and turned ghost. White, Daniel froze in place, and the crowd erupted into confusion as I stood calmly beside the screen, arms crossed, finally free of their lies. Claire ran inside sobbing, Daniel followed her like a coward, and I unplugged the projector, thanked everyone for coming, and went upstairs to pack my bags. I didn't need to hear excuses, didn't need apologies, I just needed out. I filed for divorce the next morning, changed my number, deleted all social media, and disappeared into a different city, where no one knew my name, starting over with nothing but the clothes I owned and the lessons I'd learned. Never trust someone just because they've known you the longest, and never confuse familiarity with loyalty. In time I found peace, took up hiking, adopted a rescue dog named Finn, built a quiet life with no drama, no secrets, just solitude and honesty. And though I still carry the scars of that betrayal, I also carry the strength it gave me, because surviving the worst kind of heartbreak doesn't destroy you. It forges you into someone who will never settle for less than the truth again.